What's up everybody, I'm Matt.
And I'm Beth.
And today we're going to be reviewing the interior in the 2020 Honda Civic Si Coupe. So the Si is one of the few vehicles that actually offer a true two-door coupe anymore in this segment. Basically everything else has gone to 4 doors aside from the Veloster, which has its weird 3-door setup. But this is really it as far as 2 doors if you're looking for something.
But the doors are very heavy. I did not like that at all.
Yeah, they are pretty heavy. They're almost as heavy as like my Mustang's doors. Without,
I feel like they're heavier than your Mustang doors. I don't know. I wasn't crazy about it, but you know, if you want your 2 doors, here you go.
Yeah, and if you don't like the heavy doors, just go for the sedan that they offer for the Si and you're set. But it's a pretty cool interior. They haven't made too many new changes here for 2020. The main stuff here is you have this little red stripe around the air vents, and then you do have this red checkered carbon fiber look pattern to the cloth seats here. And those are the only 2 real changes for 2020 as far as the interior goes. And as far as the big picture stuff goes, you know, I'd say that it's a little bit nicer than some of the stuff this competes with, but certainly not the nicest out there either. But you know, you do have some nice padding on the doors and stuff, although this cloth on the center armrest is kind of rough. I wish that was a little softer.
Yeah, and it looks like it could get dirty pretty easily.
Yeah, with elbow marks and stuff. And in the Type R, this was like a softer, smooth Alcantara, and this just this rough cloth. I wish it had this kind of an Alcantara thing like that you get with the Type R. It'd be kind of nice. But anyway, first thing, sitting down in these seats, you have these unique seats here for the Si, which do have bigger bolsters than regular Civics, but again, not as aggressive as the Type R. And I think they're really a good happy medium. They have, you know, great bolstering to hold you in place really well, but they're not overkill. You know, it's not hard to get in and out of these seats like it is with the Type R and stuff. And I really like them. They're also heated seats here, which is a nice inclusion at this price point.
I definitely like it more than the Type R seats, just because I can get out way easier and I don't have to like go over the side to have to get out, and it's yeah, it's a little bit of a hurdle with the Type R's.
So yeah, they're really great seats. The steering wheel is also really nice here in the Si. It's got a really great 9-3 grip, nice little 10-2 notches. I like the leather wrapping and the red stitching. Just a few buttons here on it, and Honda has really kept this steering wheel nice and simple, which I appreciate. You don't have quite as many buttons as some of the competitors, and so great job there. The gauges are also one of the standout features of the Civics here. Back in 2016 introduced this digital gauge cluster, which was ahead of the time, and you know, now there's others that are starting to kind of integrate this, but the Civic still, to have that standard on all of them is really impressive. And so it's great gauges. I love how they have a 3-dimensional kind of look to them, and you know, nice large speedometer and large tach and everything, just all the basic information you need right there. And you can of course scroll through and see a boost gauge, G meter. There's all kinds of great information in that gauge cluster as well. So even if you're an enthusiast, you still have all the gauges that you want, like a boost gauge, which is pretty rare and stuff these days, even with all the turbocharged vehicles out there. This is one of the few that gives you that, and overall I think the gauges are great. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, like I said, you have a little bit of red trim, which is appreciated, and then you come down to this 7-inch Honda touchscreen.
It's once again extremely slow. You hit any button and it does a nice 1-2 punch, and then you get to whatever you decided to pick. If you're picking your audio, you click in there, you have your radio, but it takes a couple seconds to hit your radio and even go to the station. So different things like that. It is really slow.
Yeah, and you don't have a tune knob still either, although they did integrate a volume knob last year. So at least you have that, because before that you had a little slider and that was all you had for volume. So at least you have a volume knob now and the hard buttons here on the side. But yeah, you know, tuning radio stations isn't the easiest. Of course, you will have your presets put in there if you actually own one of these, but if you're just trying to casually scroll through radio stations, it's going to be a slow, laggy tap 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 to get through stations, which isn't great. But you know, it does have smartphone, you know, integration as standard, so you have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto capabilities here, and so that's great to have. And I also here for 2019, whenever they upgraded this, they also did give you buttons for the fan speed, and so that's great to have that integrated in there now. And so, you know, just a few more hard buttons for all the things you use most commonly, so that is appreciated. But they did still keep it nice and simple, and I just hope that eventually someday they give this the good screen that you get in the Accord and the Pilot and many other different Hondas that have a much better system. This system's just old and it feels old, and that's probably the worst part about this whole interior. but it's not a deal breaker, you know, and it's something you can certainly live with. It's just not going to, you know, be as good of an experience as the Accord and others out there. Moving on to the storage space here in the SI. That is one of the areas that Honda just knocked out of the park, and I think this has more storage space than most of its competitors. You have huge pockets on the doors with a bottle holder. You have in the center here all kinds of storage. Up top here you have this nice rubberized bin which has a little cord pass through, because that's in this lower bin where you'll find a USB jack and a power outlet. There is no auxiliary jack in the Civic. That's the one thing it is missing, but great to have this extra storage space. So I mean, even just having the one higher level and then the lower level is already double the space you usually get in most other vehicles in this segment.
Plus with this pass-through, it's very easy for you to stow away things that you don't want to be seen and that you don't want to necessarily put in your center armrest.
Yeah, it's good to just have things a little bit out of sight, so that's great. There's also these little pockets on the side of the transmission tunnel, so you can, you know, put some small little things, coins or whatever, in there too. So lots of great space there. And then yeah, this center area, I mean, it's just so versatile. So you have two cup holders built into there and the center armrest here, which, you know, can slide forwards and backwards and lift up and reveal a little coin tray in there. But then beneath those cup holders, you can see there's just this massive other bin. I have my sunglass case in here, and then, you know, there's also this very tall space for a really large bottle if you'd like, and another USB jack in there. And I mean, this is just, again, this is uncanny for this segment, and I've been singing the Civic's praises for the past 4 years while they've had this. It is by far more storage than you get in any other vehicle. I mean, since there isn't any dedicated locked off bin, you know, there isn't a whole lot of opportunities to keep stuff out of sight, aside from, like you mentioned, under here and then right directly under this armrest. So everything else, like in the cup holders, is out in the open all the time. There's no cover for that, which is fine, but overall I'm just so impressed that such a small car just has so many places to put things. Another place that's really impressive with this space is the back seat here in the Si Coupe. So I mean, it is a really good amount of space for a two-door vehicle. It's one of the roomiest coupes, definitely. I mean, like I said, this segment is tiny of actual two doors, but even with other coupes that are more expensive, oftentimes you don't get this much space in the back seat. Now obviously you still have to do the same hurdles of, you know, going through hoops of, you know, going underneath the seat belts and everything to try and get around into that back seat. So it's not, you know, easy to access. I think the Veloster has them beat with its actual third door in the back there. So that is certainly the way to go if you want to actually use the back seat all the time. But if you are okay with just having the two doors and you're only going to use it every once in a while, I mean, I'm 5'9", I'm sitting behind myself. I actually have a couple inches of legroom to spare, which is pretty unheard of for a coupe. Way more space than a lot of the muscle cars, even with, which are massive. So I mean, a really good amount of back seat space. Headroom is the only thing that's a little bit tight. I have, you know, maybe an inch or so of headroom to spare. If I was much taller than 5'9", headroom would start to be an issue, but legroom, you know, should be okay for people that are even a little bit taller. So that's pretty impressive. And it's also really nice because on the passenger side there's a little pedal you can push down to automatically sling the passenger seat forward to get in and out of that back seat a little bit easier on that passenger side. So that's a really nice thing. And so all things considered, for a two-door car, this is one of the better back seats out there. Trunk space in the Civic Si Coupe is also pretty good, so it's not going to be as big as the sedan, and obviously there's also the Sport Hatch, which has similar power levels. If you do want more versatility, you can get that hatchback. But here for the coupe, I think it's, you know, on par with most other two-door coupes as far as trunk space. Not huge, but like I said, if you want more space, just go for the Civic Si Sedan. But I'd say, you know, for a couple of suitcases, things like that, it's going to be totally fine. And again, if you're using this vehicle primarily for two people, you'll have plenty of space back there, I think, for two people's luggage and, you know, groceries, all that kind of stuff fits no problem. One other little thing to mention is that you get the 10-speaker Honda premium stereo system here in the Si, and it sounds pretty good. You know, I mean, it's not branded or anything, so it might not jump out at you as being like, oh wow, it's going to be a good sound experience, but Honda does a really good job with their in-house Honda stereos, and yes, it's not going to blow your mind or anything. I think, you know, in this segment, still the best sounding stereo is going to be the Mazda 3 with their Bose system, which is really innovative and really does knock your socks off. But you know, for enthusiast vehicles, I'd say the Honda system is certainly you know, one of the better ones out there and is a good sound experience as well. But yeah, so that's all our thoughts here on the interior of the Civic Si. Overall, I'm just happy that they still even offer this in a coupe. It kind of harkens back to the sport compacts of the past that all had coupe options, and these days Honda's the last one standing here with the Civic Si, and I think it's great that they still offer it, because I'm sure they don't sell as many of these as they do of the sedan. So I'm glad they've kept around the coupe. I think it looks great. I think it drives great. You can go watch the driving review. I'll link that above if you want to hear how the Civic Si drives. It's a really fun little vehicle, and having heated seats and some pretty nice interior materials for only $26,000 is I think a pretty good deal considering all the performance you do get with the Civic Si.
Yeah, we really enjoyed it, and it was so nice to be able to have for this week, and yeah,
it's been a lot of fun. It's always fun in any sporty Hondas. They do such a good job with all of them. But anyway, let us know your thoughts on the Civic Si in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Take care.